The Grand Hall of the Galactic Union was alive with laughter. Massive banners of alien empires hung from the curved walls, their bright colors reflecting the light from the enormous crystal dome above. Delegates of dozens of worlds sat in floating chairs around a circular chamber, their voices echoing in the air like the hum of a distant storm. But this was not the laughter of joy. It was the laughter of mockery. At the center of the hall, a tall, silver-scaled alien named Captain Rinther stood with a smug grin. His voice carried across the chamber as he spoke to the Union leaders. "Humans," Rinther said, shaking his head slowly, "are still using ballistic weapons. Railguns, they call them. Primitive toys from a forgotten age. Their ships carry lumps of metal instead of real weapons. They are quaint." The audience laughed harder. A three-eyed ambassador from the Vashari Empire covered her mouth to hide her amusement. A bulky, insectoid general clicked his mandibles in approval. The sound was cruel and dismissive. On one of the upper balconies, far from the attention of the crowd, Admiral Kane of Earthfleet listened silently. His uniform was simple, dark blue with a single silver insignia, but his presence carried weight. He had come here under diplomatic invitation, though no one seemed to take him seriously. Kane's jaw tightened. Every word, every insult, burned in his ears. "Energy shields," Rinther continued, "make projectile weapons useless. Everyone in this galaxy knows that. A slow piece of metal cannot harm modern fleets. The humans are too stubborn, too blind to see they are already defeated." A cheer rose in the hall. It was as if the decision had already been made. Humanity was weak, outdated, a minor species playing at war. Kane leaned forward, resting his hands on the cold railing. His voice was low, almost to himself. "You really think that, don't you?" No one heard him. Or perhaps they didn't care. When the meeting ended, the Union delegates drifted away in small groups, still smiling and trading jokes about Stone Age Earth. Kane turned and walked quietly through the shining corridors of the station. Outside the long window, he could see the swirl of a nearby nebula, its purple and gold clouds glowing softly in the dark. It was beautiful, and it reminded him of home. His wrist blinked. He pressed it, and the calm, professional voice of Commander Lyra came through. "Admiral, the Council's session is over," she asked. "Yes," Kane replied, his tone steady. "They've made their position clear." "Orders, sir." Kane paused for a moment. The reflection of the nebula shimmered in his eyes. Then his voice hardened. "Tell the Iron Spear fleet to mobilize. Full readiness. No public announcements." "Yes, sir." He cut the channel and continued walking, far from the Galactic Unions. Shining halls, in the deep cold of the Sol defense yards, enormous shadows moved. The Iron Spear fleet was docked in silence, their hulls a matte black that drank in the light. Each ship was armed with railguns, so large they ran the length of the vessel. Magnetic rails humming softly as engineers checked and rechecked every coil dot in Dock 7. An armored crew loaded a shell into one of the massive guns. The projectile was 5 meters long, its surface polished to a deadly shine. Stenciled across its side were the words, "For Earth." An old mechanic named Harris watched the shell disappear into the chamber. He spat into the deck and grinned. "They still think we're throwing rocks," he muttered. "Let's see how they like these rocks moving at 30 kilometers a second." Meanwhile, in the Union's military command, Rinther reviewed intelligence reports. His claws tapped the holographic table as he looked over human ship specifications. "Look at this," he said to a fellow officer. Kinetic weapons, no. Plasma arrays, no beam turrets. They are a relic, nothing more. His officer hesitated. But sir, human ships are heavily armored, more than most modern fleets, and their power output is unusually high for vessels with no energy weapons. Rinther laughed again. Overcompensation. Heavy armor won't save them when our beams cut through their hulls. They will surrender before they can fire a shot. But Kane knew something the Union didn't. Shields in the galaxy were designed to disperse energy, lasers, plasma, particle beams. Against those, they were nearly perfect. But no one had invested in defending against high-velocity solid projectiles. The idea seemed absurd. To everyone but humans. Railguns didn't care about energy shields. A projectile traveling at Mach 25 didn't ask for permission to pass through defenses. It simply went straight through, carrying unstoppable momentum. Back on the Iron Spear's flagship, Kane stood on the bridge. The crew moved quickly, but quietly, their faces calm. They had trained for this moment for years. Sir, Commander Lyra said from the tactical console, the Union fleet is moving toward the Eridan system. 2 days until they reach the border. Kane gave a single nod. Then we'll meet them there, and we'll show them exactly what a railgun can do. He turned to face the wide forward viewport. Stars stretched endlessly ahead, silent and unaware. Of the coming storm, for a long moment, no one spoke. Then Kane said, almost to himself, they laughed at humanity. Let's give them something they'll never forget. Asterisk, the Union fleet drifted through the silent dark, its warships gleaming like blades under starlight. They were confident, moving without hurry, their banners glowing faintly on the hulls. To them, this was not a war. It was a show of strength, a lesson to a small, stubborn species that refused to know its place. On the bridge of the Vanguard of Dawn, Captain Rinther leaned back in his seat, his tail curling lazily. He stared at the holographic map of the Eridan system. 2 days, he told his officers. Then we'll have Earth's fleet on their knees. The crew chuckled. Far away, the Iron Spear fleet prepared for its own arrival. The humans did not decorate their ships with banners. Their hulls were dark and sharp, designed for war, not for show. Inside the flagship ISS Resolute, the air was tense but calm. Engineers crawled through maintenance shafts, checking the magnetic coils. The hum of the railguns echoed faintly through the metal walls, like the low growl of a predator waiting to strike. Admiral Kane stood in the center of the bridge, watching a tactical projection. Commander Lyra approached with a datapad. Sir, she said, scouts report the Union fleet is traveling in tight formation. Shields up, weapons powered, standard beam-man plasma configuration. Kane didn't look away from the map. Good, he said. That means they still don't understand. In the lower decks, the gunnery teams drilled without rest. Railgun operators worked in pairs, one calling out settings, while the other locked the massive projectiles into place. The loading arms clanged as they slid fresh rounds into the breach. Gunner Jace wiped sweat from his brow. You ever seen what one of these does to a ship? He asked his partner. Not in person, the other replied, but I've seen the Sims. Jace smirked. The Sims don't do it justice. On the Union's side, a lone scout ship shadowed the human fleet from a distance. Inside, Ensign Valera stared at her readings in confusion. The energy output from the human ships was strange. High power reserves, but no sign of beam weapon systems. She transmitted her report back to Rinther, sir. Their weapon signatures don't match any standard configuration. It's mechanical. Rinthra's reply was swift. Noted. Keep watching. They're trying to trick us into thinking they have some hidden weapon. We won't fall for it. He closed the channel and muttered to himself, "They're relics. Nothing more." That night cycle aboard the Resolute, Kane addressed his fleet. The message was transmitted to every ship, every crew member. "They believe we are weak," Kane began, his voice steady. "They believe our weapons are old. They believe we cannot touch them. They are wrong." He paused, letting the silence grow heavy. "They have forgotten that war is not about fashion. It is not about what is new. It is about what works. And railguns work." A low cheer rose from the crew, spreading through the ships like a wave, as the fleets closed in on each other. The Eridan system came into view, a single sun surrounded by 3 rocky planets and a wide asteroid belt. Kane's tactical officers studied the belt closely. "Sir," Lyra said, "the Union will have to pass near the asteroid field to reach our position. We can use the rocks as cover for our opening strike." Kane's eyes narrowed. "Perfect. We'll let them think we're hiding. Then we'll show them what we've been hiding." In the hours before contact, the atmosphere aboard both fleets shifted. In the Union fleet, officers laughed less. Their long-range sensors were picking up unusual readings from the human ships. Nothing dangerous, they thought, but unusual. In the human fleet, the crew worked in complete silence now. There was no more talking, no more joking. Every person knew what was coming. Finally, the Union fleet entered visual range. Massive warships stretched across the black, their shield barriers shimmering faintly. The Union ships were painted in bright colors, their hulls polished to shine even in the dark. In contrast, the Iron Spear fleet looked like a wall of shadows, sharp, cold, and waiting. On the bridge of the Resolute, Kane gave his first combat order. "All ships, hold position. Keep weapons cold until my signal." On the vanguard of dawn, Rintha smirked as the humans held still. "There, intimidated already. Raise our forward batteries. Let's scare them before we end them." Kane's voice came over the fleet. "Come. Remember this moment. Remember what they thought of us before this day. Remember how they laughed." He glanced at Lyra, then at the tactical officer. "When their flagship is in range, we fire." In the asteroid belt, the shadows shifted. The Union fleet didn't notice the tiny glints of movement, the hidden human destroyers positioning themselves behind the rocks, their railguns already tracking the Union's lead ships. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Kane's hand hovered over the firing signal. Far away, Rintha leaned forward in his command chair. "End this," he said, but the humans had no intention of ending it quickly. The asteroid belt hung between the two fleets like a wall of silent witnesses. Dust and debris floated slowly, lit by the distant sun. Somewhere within that drifting graveyard of rock, the human destroyers waited, still, silent, invisible. On the bridge of the ISS Resolute, Admiral Kane stood with his hands clasped behind his back. His voice was calm. "Range, flagship." "In optimal range in 20 seconds, Commander Lyra replied. Kane's eyes stayed on the Union fleet ahead. The vanguard of dawn gleamed under the light, its shimmering shields wrapping it like a royal cloak. Kane knew that inside, Captain Rintha was likely smiling. Union fleet, vanguard of Don Rintha, leaned forward, claws tapping his armrest. "They're just sitting there," he muttered. "What are they waiting for? Are they frozen in fear? Should we fire first, Captain? His weapons officer asked. Rinther grinned. Yes, charge all plasma batteries. As the order went out, the Union fleet's weapons began to glow, filling the black void with the pale blue light of charged plasma. Human fleet, ISS. Resolute Kane watched the Union weapons flare to life. His voice came through the fleet comms, like a steady drumbeat. All ships, fire control online. Railgun crews moved in perfect rhythm, thunk. Shells the size of small cars slid into place. Hume, the electromagnetic coils charged, building power that made the air vibrate. Sir, Lyra said, Vanguard is about to fire. Kane gave a single nod. Then let's be first. He raised his hand, then brought it down. Fire. The first shot ripped through the silence like the wrath of a god. From the Resolute's main railgun, a tungsten slug exploded forward. At Mach 25, the flash was blinding. Space lit up as the projectile crossed the gap in less than a second. The Union's flagship didn't even have time to react. The slug hit the forward shield, and the shield did nothing. It passed through as if the barrier wasn't there, slamming into the hull with enough force to punch straight through the ship from bow to stern. The Vanguard of Dawn shuddered violently. A hole the size of a shuttle tore open in its midsection. The slug kept going, striking another ship directly behind it, crippling it instantly. On Rinther S Bridge, alarms screamed. The lights flickered. Smoke poured from the forward compartments. What was that? He shouted. His officers scrambled at their stations. It bypassed the shields, Captain. Direct hull penetration. Massive structural damage. Rinther's confident grin was gone. His tail lashed in panic. Return fire. All ships now. But the humans weren't done. From the asteroid belt, the hidden destroyers revealed themselves, emerging like predators from the dark. Their railguns thundered one after another, each shot slamming into Union warships with unstoppable speed. Crack, a cruiser's reactor exploded. Crack, another flagship's bridge was obliterated in a single hit. The Union fleet's tight formation became a trap. Every shot passed clean through one ship and struck another behind it. On the Resolute, Kane watched without emotion. They're breaking, Lyra said. Kane's voice was ice. Good. Keep firing until they can't run. The Union ships fired back, filling the void with beams and plasma bursts. But the humans didn't need to dodge. Their armor was thick, their positioning smart. A plasma beam grazed the Resolute's side, leaving a glowing scar, but the ship kept advancing. On the Union's private command channel, chaos reigned. Our shields don't work. They're firing solid metal. They're not weapons. They're siege engines. Aboard the Vanguard of Dawn, Rinther S. Pride turned to raw fear. His first officer grabbed his arm. Captain, we have to retreat. Rinther snarled but didn't argue. Signaled the fleet. Pull back to jump range. Now, Kane saw the movement immediately. The Union ships were turning, their formation breaking apart. Sir, Lyra said, they're retreating. Kane's lips curved into the faintest smile. Not yet, they're not. He keyed into fleet comms. All ships, focus, fire on their escape vector. Make sure they remember this. The railguns spoke again. One by one, Union ships vanished into fire and debris. Some made it to jump range, damaged, limping, humiliated. The battle had lasted only 6 minutes. When the last shot faded and silence returned, Kane stood motionless. Status. he asked. Minimal damage to our fleet, Sir Lyra replied. We lost no ships. Kane turned to the crew. His voice was calm but carried the weight of victory. They laughed at us, he said. They won't laugh again. The wreckage of the battle drifted slowly in the cold void. Pieces of twisted metal turned in the light of the distant sun. The remains of ships that had once carried the pride of the Galactic Union. The Iron Spear fleet moved through the debris field like silent hunters returning from the kill. Every railgun barrel was still warm. Faint wisps of vapor curling from the magnetic coils. On the bridge of the ISS Resolute, Admiral Kane stood with his hands behind his back, his gaze fixed on the tactical screen. Any sign of pursuit? He asked. Commander. Lyra shook her head. None, sir. The survivors jumped to hyperspace as soon as they could. Kane nodded slowly. Good. Let them carry the story. Galactic Union, Emergency Council session. The Great Hall was silent now. The same delegates who had once laughed at humanity sat stiffly in their chairs, their eyes fixed on the center of the chamber. The holographic display above the table showed grainy battle footage, Union ships being ripped apart, shields useless against the human weapons. A nervous murmur spread through the room. They destroyed half our fleet in minutes. Those weapons, I've never seen anything like them. They didn't even lose a single ship. At the head of the chamber, the Union High Chancellor cleared his throat. His voice shook as he spoke. It seems we have underestimated the humans. On a distant observation deck, Captain Rinther stared out at the stars. His ship, the once proud vanguard of dawn, now floated in dry dock. Massive repair scaffolds wrapped around its crippled hull. The hole from the railgun strike was still there, a wound that no amount of patching could hide. A younger officer approached him. Captain, are they going to attack again? Rinther's tail twitched. No, he said softly, they don't need to. The message has been sent. Earth's sole defense, Command Admiral Kane stood in the war room, the holomap of the galaxy glowing before him. Several planets along the border had sent diplomatic requests to meet with Earth, planets that had once ignored or mocked human presence in the galaxy. Commander Lyra stepped beside him. The Union is offering a ceasefire, sir. They say they want cooperation. Kane's eyes narrowed. Cooperation or containment? Both, probably, Lyra said with a faint smile. In the weeks that followed, rumors spread faster than ships could travel. They spoke of the Iron Spear fleet, of weapons that could tear through any defense, of a human admiral who never raised his voice yet commanded total fear. Alien traders began treating humans with cautious respect. Border patrols kept their distance. Some worlds even sent gifts, rare minerals, advanced tech, hoping to stay in Earth's good graces. But in the quiet corners of Sol Defense Command, another conversation was taking place. Deep in a hidden shipyard, orbiting Titan engineers worked on something even larger than the Iron Spear. Massive rails stretched along the spine of a ship still under construction, each one more powerful than any railgun fired in the battle at Eridan. Chief Engineer Harris, the same man who had watched the first shells loaded, now walked among the construction platforms. He ran a hand over the cold steel. She fire a slug the size of a fighter, he said quietly, and nothing in the galaxy will survive it. Back on Earth, Kane received a secure transmission from the Titan shipyard. The message was short. Project Leviathan on schedule. Kane allowed himself the faintest smile. They're already afraid of us, he murmured. Let's make sure they stay that way. Galactic Union Council Archives unsealed entry. In the aftermath of the Battle of Eridon, the balance of power shifted. The humans, once dismissed as primitives, became a force to be feared. No fleet approached their borders without permission. No one mocked their weapons again. The sound of their railguns still echoes in the nightmares of those who faced them. In the dark, the stars remained unchanged. But to the galaxy, everything was different now. Humanity was no longer the punchline to a joke. They were the warning at the start of every story.